Gur míle maithe go sa fáinse fear an fíorchaoin fáilte rih cáchan tá nacht a gcuoine úsle. Éana ahanse a bháil den cléir is mór an ordam chuire áil an leabhar seo a cheola tránán an jobh. Có gáardachas ó chrí leis na hagrahóirí agus leis na ráin feartathe an leabhar papéir cótarintach a chuir le chéile. I would first of all address our very esteemed welcome to the Papal Nuncio, to Michael Kerwin as the director of the Loyola Institute. And just to say it's a huge honour for me in my first role. I was only elected recently and I started the job last week. And this is such a privilege to be here at an event that I have a deep and personal interest in on that level, but also from the perspective of representing our faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. A book of this calibre almost blew me away. So I have had a wonderful time delving in and out and listening to that extraordinary, where is Judith? I can't see her. There you are. Contribution from Judith has just reaffirmed the significance of this text, the significance of the conference that preceded it, and also pointed the way to the future. I may, if I may digress for a moment, people will often refer to the challenges that people of faith and those of us who are scholars and who inquire into all matters of relevance to how we are and our being together in this world, expressed concern to me. And in a local church not so long ago down in Ringsend, a priest called Father Dan O'Connor was speaking at one of the services. I don't know if Dan is known to those, and Dan said to the congregation, "We are small in number tonight. It was a feast day, but not to worry." And he reminded us that in the Middle Ages, that one of the archbishops had written to the Pope at the time to say, "It's all over. It's all over." I'm sorry, Papal Nuncio, but and the concern was that our clergy have abandoned their posts and things are looking rather poor, and predicted that in 10 to 20 years, that would be the end of faith of the church in Ireland. Thankfully to say, as Father Dan told us, many centuries later, we're still here. And the reason I want to come back, I suppose, to the more personal side of this is to commend Judith in terms of some of the concepts around systemic theology. I was listening to you around the doctrine part and the dogma. You explained so accessibly here this evening. It's not everyone's discourse. And that's something that's in that book. The language here is accessible. It's challenging because many of the things that I thought I had concluded for myself on my own faith journey, my own personal journey, were turned, not quite on their head, but were turned from different angles, which, as you rightly recommended, is no bad thing. We need to keep questioning. And this is a book that poses questions. Don't dip in if you're looking for answers. I was so impressed. I got to Con's chapter, because I've been reading a chapter per evening last night, and I had to ring my colleague who works in the arts, similar to Judith, and say, we need to figure this one out. This relationship between hope and optimism. And in our work in the arts, we're always concerned about this overemphasis on optimism. And talk about a small world. I've been sitting here next to a lady who I didn't know until we got chatting, and then we recognised each other. But you asked the question, Conchita, around schools and what's happening in education, because you had an interest in that area in terms of maths education. And you were concerned about the development of the Educate Together schools and the movement, that is there. I'm less concerned around the future. And when I read this book, it didn't have that naive optimism that everything has to be fabulous. There is a utopia. It had very, very challenging and solid questions that return us to the concepts of well-being and ill-being. And in the education system here recently, they have decided to reverse and say we can't have everybody obsessed with being happy all the time, that everything has to be on and up. That is not reality. That is not a good direction for our young people to be brought into. So interestingly, I'm not sure I like the term ill-being, but that notion of trying to have, you talked there about the dialectic, trying and not to have binaries, but to have that relationship. And I love to hear you with your interest in Kant and Hegel. I would share those interests. So without wanting to go on, I suppose, too far more, because time is of the essence, the last example I'll give is for the last 3 weeks, I have been working with a group of young people, predominantly the ages around 17, 18, up to 25. And they're young people in the inner city who take a programme that we offer here in Trinity called Career Leap, which is Local Employment Action Partnership. They're young people who really face significant barriers in their life. I have never yet, in the 10 years I've been doing this, had such a meaningful conversation as I've had with this cohort. They grilled me as recently as yesterday about issues of faith. And I think it's probably because I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid to debate and discuss. So we had 2 young men, one from Palestine, as it happens, and another young person from Bangladesh who were migrants and who are in that system. And this is a work readiness program, but getting them ready to develop the skills that might be needed in the workforce. But they spoke about their faith, and they began to ask, what do you believe, to their peers in the rest of the group? And because I didn't shut it down, which is what they would have expected, we spent a good part of every day debating these types of issues. It was fascinating. They asked me, do I pray? How often? What do I pray for? And the whole lot. And it created a very interesting dialogue and conversation. So I would, I suppose, just like to say, we have a book here with 14 extraordinary chapters, beautifully written, wonderful references to some of the theorists, and the scholarship is phenomenal in terms of, I was looking at all the people that I would know, so I had to select them. Hannah Arendt, who I would know, Alain Badiou, Ernst Bloch, Pierre Bourdieu, Terry Eagleton, T.S. Eliot, Joseph Piper, and last but not least, would you believe, is mentioned Margaret Thatcher. And if that doesn't sell it to you, I give up. Divided beautifully, beautifully curated by the editors, and all credit to Fáinche, and her colleague is here, Josef, I can't say, there you are, Josef, and Dirk, for pulling it together. So please, I would encourage you, I suppose, reignite where we're at ourselves, re-challenge ourselves. And as we would say, Ber Bua, Gunyairi Lena Larisha. Best of luck for this book. Thank you very much. Very mean